Welcome to another Luck Scout bedtime story. The Garden of Quiet Growth. In a peaceful village at the edge of a forest, there was a woman named Mira. She was known for her gentle spirit and quiet patience. Mira lived in a small house with a garden that she loved dearly. Every day she spent hours tending to her plants, nurturing them from tiny seeds into blooming flowers and strong trees. The garden was her sanctuary, a place where she found peace and comfort. One day an old traveller passed through the village and handed Mira a small, peculiar seed. "This seed is special," the traveller said with a knowing smile. "It may not grow quickly, and you might not see its progress at first, but if you tend to it patiently, it will bring you something wonderful." Mira thanked the traveller and carefully planted the seed in the richest soil of her garden. She watered it daily, making sure it had plenty of sunlight. She tended to it as she did her other plants, but as the days passed, there was no sign of growth. The seed remained hidden beneath the soil, and Mira began to wonder if it would ever sprout. She spoke to her neighbors, who told her to give up. "The seed is taking too long," they said. "Why waste your time on something that doesn't show results?" But Mira, in her quiet way, smiled and continued to care for the seed. She knew that just because something doesn't show progress immediately, it doesn't mean growth isn't happening beneath the surface. And so, with patience in her heart, she continued her work, believing that in time something beautiful would emerge. As the weeks turned into months, Mira's garden flourished with vibrant flowers, leafy herbs and tall trees. But the spot where she had planted the peculiar seed remained unchanged. Still, every morning she knelt by the soil, watered it, and whispered words of encouragement to the seed she could not see. One evening, as the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the garden, Mira sat quietly by the seed's resting place. She had grown accustomed to its stillness, trusting that time would reveal its secret when it was ready. As the stars began to twinkle overhead, Mira closed her eyes and breathed deeply, feeling the peace of the garden around her. She realized that much like the seed, life often requires patience. We plant our hopes, dreams and efforts, but the results aren't always immediate. Sometimes the most important growth happens in silence, out of sight beneath the surface. Mira thought of how many times she had tended to her garden without expecting immediate results. Each flower, each tree had taken its time to grow, and yet they had blossomed into something beautiful. She understood now that the same could be said for the unseen seed. Its journey was not about speed, but about steady, quiet growth. One peaceful morning, after many months of waiting, Mira noticed something different in the garden. In the very spot where the peculiar seed had been planted, a small green sprout had pushed its way through the soil. It wasn't large or particularly striking, but there it was, a sign of life, a promise that growth had been happening all along. Mira smiled, her heart filled with joy. She hadn't given up on the seed, and now, finally, it had begun to reveal itself. The sprout grew stronger each day, and as it did, it reminded Mira of an important truth. Just because we can't see progress doesn't mean it isn't happening. Growth takes time, and often the most meaningful things in life unfold slowly without fanfare. As the days passed, the sprout grew into a tall, graceful plant, unlike any other in her garden. Its leaves shimmered in the sunlight, and its flowers bloomed with a softness that filled the air with a delicate fragrance. Mira's patience had been rewarded with something truly beautiful. something that could only have come from her quiet, steady care. One afternoon, as Mira tended to her flourishing garden, the old traveller returned. He looked at the plant that had grown from the peculiar seed and nodded with approval. "You did well," he said. "Many would have given up when they didn't see immediate results, but you understood that growth doesn't always happen on our schedule. It takes patience, care, and faith." Mira smiled softly. "I learned that growth often happens in the quiet moments, in the unseen spaces where we may not notice it right away. But with patience and persistence, it emerges stronger and more beautiful than we imagined." The traveller nodded. "And so it is with life. We plant seeds of effort, hope and kindness, and though we may not see the results immediately, they are growing beneath the surface. The key is to trust the process and continue tending to what matters, knowing that, in time, the fruits of our labour will bloom." With a grateful heart, Mira thanked the traveller for the wisdom he had shared. She knew that the lesson of the seed was one she would carry with her always, that patience, persistence and quiet care were the true treasures of life. It wasn't about rushing toward results, but about nurturing each moment with intention and trust. Mira continued to care for her garden with the same gentle patience she had always shown, but now with a deeper understanding. She knew that not all growth could be seen, and that the most important things often took time. Her garden became a symbol of peace and calm for all who visited, and they marveled at the beauty that had emerged from the peculiar seed. As the days turned into months, and the months into years, Mira's garden flourished even more, not just because of the plants that grew, but because of the peace that filled the air. It was a place of quiet growth, where time slowed and beauty emerged in its own perfect rhythm. And as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Mira would sit by the tall plant that had grown from the peculiar seed, feeling a sense of calm and contentment. She knew that life, like the garden, was a journey of unseen growth, and that with patience and persistence, everything would bloom in its time. As you lie in your bed tonight, remember the story of Mira and the quiet seed. Life doesn't always show us results right away, but that doesn't mean growth isn't happening. Trust the process, be patient, and know that in time, all the seeds you've planted will bloom into something beautiful. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let the peace of slow, steady growth guide you into a restful, soothing sleep.